Welcome back, Proguides family. Today, we feast on some good content that will definitely help you play as and with some of the most understood heroes in Dota. We see immortal players misplay these heroes nonstop, so get out your pencils and notebooks. Before we jump into that, question of the day: where do you want TI 11 to be hosted? I'm really hungering for some TI action. Do we even know when TI 10 is happening? It is happening, right? Gaben, you're not just going to buy another island with our money, right? You better still host TI 10. First up, we have Warlock, who is an absolute dominant force in low to middle elo. Still, there are so many people that mess up the execution on this guy in lane especially. The good news is, it's still very easy to play this hero, which is a factor as to why he does so well. The most egregious error is the usage of Shadow Word. Typically, 2 to 3 points of Shadow Word are leveled by 5 until we veer into our plethora of teamfight skills. Shadow Word is super strong early, but do not cast it on the opponent practically ever. Shadow Word at level 1 heals for 180, but damages for 135. It is always guaranteed to be less value offensively than defensively. This is because the heal is not reduced by your teammate's magic resistance, whereas the damage is. You are not winning a lane in a burst committal as Warlock. You are winning it over time. You can get kills, sure, but you're not 100-0ing someone in one go. By giving HP to your carry, you are allowing them to trade more, which will make up for the damage that you missed. If your carry has to go back to the fountain, that is disastrous. But with the proper Shadow Word usage and mangoes, your lane is impenetrable. There is a reason why pros refer to this spell as the heal. You should use it as such. You can use it on yourself too if you're being focused in trades. I bet Warlock's win rate would rise even if he got nerfed by making it possible to cast on his enemies. It's more than just raw numbers and efficiency though. Warlock is exclusively a 5, which means you're usually laning with some weak agility carry. They are dying for a heal. Just give it to them. Warlock is such a defensive hero in lane that the damage on an opponent is probably useless because what are you going to follow that up with? A stun? Oh, wait, you don't have one. The only time you should use Shadow Word on an opponent is if they are below 20% health. Another common mistake is bad usage of Fatal Bonds. Again, really simple fixes, but misplaying even once with this spell in lane means less heals to give out, and messing up on Fatal Bonds in a teamfight is a fatal error. The links on bonds bounce up to 700 range. Stuff like this can be a little hard to judge or can sometimes be janky. Like Medusa's snake, I swear it never bounces the way I expect. Let's say you're facing an incoming creep wave and near that wave, we have vision over 3 enemy heroes incoming. Do you just cast it on the first creep and let it bounce to the heroes? No, at this point in the game it's probably 5 creeps in a wave, so you'll bounce to 5 creeps and only 1 hero. Instead, cast it on the ranged creep to bounce to the 3 heroes, or of course, you could just cast it on the enemy hero, but that may compromise your positioning. Don't just cast it on the first thing in a line and expect it to work perfectly. A similar concept can be seen commonly by any pro Shadow Shaman player. They never cast Ether Shock on the first creep because it can be weird how the bounces spread. Instead, they cast it on the ranged creep, and that guarantees it hits the full wave. Oh, and whatever you do, don't cast this on a single target. It does literally nothing. Secondly, we got our struggling artist, Grimstroke. This is one of those heroes that isn't even bad, but yet you still hate having him on your team. Some of his shortcomings are just impossible to completely prevent because nobody, possibly not even IO, relies on coordination more, and let's just say coordination is in short supply in pubs of any level. We'll break this one down into 2 segments, as the Grim player and as his team. Everyone has to be prepared to play around the Grim pick, and the game gets a lot easier. As the Grim player, you must pick first. Don't even think about losing gold or picking in a later stage. Supports just pick first, that's how it usually goes, but you should just pick Grim before the time starts counting down so your other supports can maybe pick something less like Mirana and more like Lion. Politely suggest picks like Pugna, Doom, PA, and Sand King for your core positions. Not everyone needs to pick to synergize with you, but we desperately need our lane partner to work together with us and at least one big spell to duplicate with our own ultimate. Think of it this way. If your lane partner is a Venomancer, then the Grim only has 1 spell. The other 3 will do literally nothing in lane. The Ghosts cost you mana while feeding over 30 gold to the enemy. Inkswell will probably never land because we're 2 ranged heroes with 0 mobility. And now all we're left with is Stroke of Fate, which is a skill shot and the reward is not even that good for landing it. Even with a good lane partner, the first 2 spells are meh at best. The good news is Inkswell more than makes up for it. This spell is absurd with gap close. If you have the synergy for it, max this by 7. Inkswell has been nerfed 4 times and is still so good. When Grim came out, this also made the swelled target invulnerable. Okay. Valve really should have made an Arcana when Grim released, would have made bank off of how OP he was. Keep in mind, the third point in Ghost is one of the biggest skill points in the game. It makes the Ghost go from 2 hits to kill to 3. Skip any and everything to get that third point in it. I'm not saying maxes early, in fact that's almost always wrong. What I am saying is ensure that you have 3 points in this sooner rather than later. As Grim's lane mate, be prepared for Ink Swell. You two must communicate when Swell will be used. A second of hesitation turns what should be a kill into wasted mana for Grim. Even if it's just pings, you gotta be on the same page. Another thing that'll be hard to get used to, but you must be prepared for, is holding your spells. Don't just doom or hex the first thing you see every time in a team fight. Wait for Grim to link them and get double value out of your single target spells. Of course, please pick synergy with your Grim Stoke. If you pick Luna with position 5 Grim, don't be surprised when your support can't do anything of use. The main 2 ways to get use of our Grim is to pick gap close like PA to land Inkswell and to duplicate spells with the ult. I would say landing Inkswell is even more important than duplicating spells, so don't feel the need to pick a big ult to double, but you do gotta have one or the other synergy. Next up, we have one of the most hit or miss heroes in the game, Slark. Oh boy, this fishy boy has a whole host of unique traits that make him tricky to play. Both good and bad in lane at the same time, has a skill shot, is reflex dependent, requires constant attention to control vision, is a carry that doesn't build like any other carry, and like Lifestealer, requires an in and out play loop. Let's start unpacking those traits, shall we? Slark is both good and bad in lane because Essence Shift is bar none the best level 1 ability in the game, but requires such a deep understanding of the game to best utilize it. Slark is also bad at laning because he has the worst stats and stat growth of any hero in the game. While not the absolute worst in any category, Slark's totals add up to the worst of any melee hero. This is of course to offset the overwhelming power of Essence Shift, but if you don't use it properly, you are in for a lane of hurt. Slark is all about looking for openings, whether it be in lane or in teamfights. Whenever you can get a drawn-out trade with an opponent, you want that. If you put Slark against Ursa level 1 with just their respective passives, Slark wins by a lot. Same with Razor, anyone loses a pure 1v1 versus Slark. Of course, your opponent knows this and will try to not give you the opening. Like many heroes on this list, Slark falls into the extremely aggressive category a la Grimstroke or the extremely defensive category, i.e. Warlock. Slark wants to be very aggressive, which requires coordination from a lane partner. In fact, we even had Slark Grim on our safe lane combos you must try list. A disaster waiting to happen with uncoordinated teammates, but a treasure trove for kills for a good duo who can exploit the unbridled aggression of these two heroes. In team fights though, we are sneaky. As per Slark's lore, this fish man had to escape prison. You can go in aggressively, just mind your Shadow Dance buff icon above your HUD. If it's not showing, you know you can be seen, so pop Dark Pact and be ready to Shadow Dance. Focus the target and stack building up Essence Shift, disengage with Pounce and or Dark Pact, fog yourself or go invis to heal, then rinse and repeat. Because you'll always reach insane DPS if you just live long enough, we see a lot of defensive items on this agility carry. At most, you see pseudo-aggressive items like Silver Edge and Abyssal, both of which have plenty of defensive utility as well. We even see Halberd Slark because survivability directly translates into damage for Slark. Diffusal was very common a short while back, but that was primarily because Diffusal was a very overpowered item, and other items Slark used to like, such as Scotty and Echo, were bad. However, Scotty and Echo have since been hugely buffed, whereas Diffusal was nerfed, so we're not seeing Diffusal anymore. Do not hard commit as Slark. You can build a Shadow Blade, but the main usage of it should be repositioning to heal with Shadow Dance and building in Silver Edge, not to solo kill. Number 4 is the guy who hogs all the golden immortal treasures, Lifestealer. I don't fancy myself a particularly good Lifestealer player, especially with how inconsistent my armlet toggling is, but when I see my average teammate play this hero, I start to think, maybe I am good at this guy. Team fighting with Lifestealer is all about understanding his standard gameplay loop. Here's how it goes. Position aggressively, rage and open wound someone. Hit them until rage is ending. Right as rage is ending, infest a teammate or creep. Ideally a teammate, but a lot of time they make you chase them. If you have a Lifestealer on your team, please give him an infest target that's easy to reach in teamfights. While you're inside your teammate, take the time to assess the teamfight. You passively heal now while infested as well. Typically, we will pop out when rage is back up and repeat the rage, open wounds, hard commit. You literally can't do anything else while inside your teammate, so commit all your attention to the team fight and decide if it's safe to exit earlier, or maybe it's going to be so bad you can't exit at all. Activate Rage earlier rather than later because that makes it easier to use 2 in a fight, and the ultimate shame as lifestealer is to not use Rage and get chain stunned to death. The opponents are going to be looking for you to hit you with an instant cast Orchid or stun to initiate. Make their job hard by raging early. You know, like your team at min 5 with the score is 0-3. Lifestealer is also a very passive laner, and that's part of his strength. Your mana pool is straight up embarrassing for the cost of your spells early game, so just don't use them unless you're confident it'll result in a kill. Just like Warlock, this is a hero you'll rarely 100-0 someone on. Instead, we just focus on trading and wearing them down until they're low, and then we commit our mana for a kill attempt. Maxing Feast is what allows this to happen, and only the hardest counterpicks can zone out a lifestealer, otherwise you should be able to just heal through everything, just like Warlock. Passive doesn't mean don't trade. We're looking to trade a lot on lifestealer for the lifesteal, but we are not looking to chase or attempt to kill. Finally, techies. This one kinda hurts me personally. I don't want to encourage more people to play techies, but I have a journalistic duty to share our knowledge. The easiest way to tell a bad techies player from a good one, that's an oxymoron, is their starting items. It totally reveals how they intend to play the lane, and techies are actually great in lane, but it seems like the vast majority have no clue how to do it right. Under no circumstance should you start with any component to Soul Ring. Your starting item should look like a whole mess of Fairy Fires or Null components or Blightstone, stuff like that. When I see a techies player with these items, I know I can trust him because they're just going to right-click the enemy with their obnoxiously long range, blast off, and then act as a human courier. Don't be that guy who just hides in the trees planting mines. That's so inconsistent, can just feed mine gold away in the early game. When the mines were invisible, then yeah, this was fine, but Ice Frog has turned techies into an even bigger and more direct nuisance with the trade and suicidal playstyle. Simply right-click the enemy from the side of the lane. It's pretty easy to not aggro the wave because techies has 700 attack range. Why is he more of a sniper than a sniper? I don't know. You'll have to ask the frog about that one. But that's it. Just hit the enemy. Don't do anything else. Maybe you can pull sometimes, but that's it. Don't place mines, don't gank, nothing. Just harass them, and when you get to 1/3 HP, try to hit suicide. You don't even have to hit it. If we land it, even better. But we just want to kill ourselves so we can take our core's items back to lane and rinse and repeat. The opponent gets nothing out of your suicides. No XP, no gold, no nothing. Because we have the most pathetic base damage in the game, clocking in at only 35, Fairy Fires make a noticeable difference in the amount of harass we deal, which I cannot stress enough is a lot. 700 range combined with 310 move speed is an absurd combo to have for lane. You don't necessarily need to max suicide first, because the main draw of it is simply the ability to deny ourselves, which is the same at all levels. Once the laning stage is over, you can focus on building up status plus red mine clusters in the trees and up hills. Oh, and then you can go Soul Ring, because we don't need mana whatsoever in the laning stage because we're only killing ourselves. Emphasis on killing ourselves. You should not use suicide unless it's killing you. Otherwise, the enemy will just turn on you and pick up the easy kill. One last thing, in the mid-late game, it's not bad to set up green mines at your T3s, even if your team is ahead. It's pretty common to massively lose team fights out of nowhere with techies on your team, since, you know, if you don't fight where the mines are, he's not a hero. Have those preemptive mines set up to defend your high ground, which is techie's strongest aspect and why he causes hour-long games more than any other hero. Thanks for watching, everybody. Please put this guide to good use. I hope it helps you play both as, against, and with these heroes. Please subscribe, and if you liked, ring that bell to be notified of our new videos as they come out. We got some exciting new content coming. Just you wait and see. I will see all of you guys in our next video.